The access badge was revoked this morning. My email stopped syncing, and the payroll screen locked me out. The termination timestamp is already in the system, and it propagates every hour. I was still inside the building when the badge failed. The elevator rejected the floor. Security watched the panel and waited. I walked down the stairs because standing there would have escalated it faster. My phone kept vibrating. Not messages. Automated alerts. Benefits enrollment frozen. Health coverage marked pending. My last paycheck flagged for manual review. That review window closes today. I went to my desk to pull my personal drive. The workstation demanded re-auth. The password worked, then expired. A banner appeared saying my files were quarantined for audit. The audit has no owner listed. I assumed this was a mistake. A role mismatch. Someone clicked the wrong name. That kind of thing gets fixed with a ticket and a nod. I opened the HR portal from my phone. My profile was gone. Not inactive. Removed. The first concrete loss hit then. My access to the vendor console was tied to my account. That console holds the keys for 3 active contracts under my name. Without access, they breach in 48 hours. Penalties are automatic. I called my manager. Straight to voicemail. I called the project lead. The line rang and stopped. A chat ping came through from legal. It wasn't a conversation. It was a notice. Do not contact clients. Do not access systems. Do not remain on premises. I packed what I could without drawing attention. A notebook. A charger. My jacket. Security followed at a distance. Not aggressive. Procedural. That made it worse. Outside, the weather was irrelevant. I checked my bank app. My balance hadn't changed yet, but the payroll deposit usually posts by noon. Noon was 30 minutes away. I thought the fastest fix was proof. If I could show the contract dependencies, they would reverse it to avoid penalties. I drafted a short email from my personal account and stopped before sending. The notice said do not contact. A call finally came in. Unknown number. I answered. The voice said my separation was effective immediately and irreversible. The reason would follow by mail. Mail meant days. While the call was still live, a new alert landed. One of the vendors had already locked the console. Countdown started. 39 hours. I stood there with the phone pressed to my ear, watching the timer tick, knowing the system had moved past correction and was still moving. By noon, the payroll deposit did not post. The bank app refreshed without error and showed the same number. That meant the hold was real. Rent was due in 4 days. The auto draft for my student loan was set for Friday. Both pull regardless of status. The vendor timer kept running. 38 hours. I pulled the contracts from my local notes. Each one had a clause tying penalties to named administrator access. My name was there. If the console stayed locked, the breach would be attributed to me personally before it touched the company. That changed the shape of the problem. This wasn't just termination. It was liability drifting in my direction. An email finally arrived from HR. Short. Neutral. It said the separation was under review and asked me to acknowledge receipt. At the bottom was a line that looked like relief. Temporary access reinstatement pending confirmation. Pending meant possible. I replied with one sentence and attached the contract excerpts. No emotion, just exposure. 10 minutes later, my badge app lit up. Limited access. 2 hours. Read only. The false stability felt solid enough to stand on. I logged into the vendor console. It opened. The timer paused at 37 hours. That was the first time the pressure eased. I could breathe without counting. I messaged the project lead inside the system. He replied with a thumbs up and said legal was sorting it. Sorting meant delay, but delay was oxygen. I saved screenshots. I downloaded logs. I thought I had bought time. Then the escalation surfaced. A system banner warned that any activity was being mirrored. Another line followed. Access subject to retroactive revocation. Retroactive meant anything I touched could be reframed as violation. Legal sent a second message. Different tone. They acknowledged the contracts, but said responsibility would be determined after separation review. That review had no date. The temporary access window ticked down. 90 minutes. A calendar invite appeared from HR, 15 minutes long. Title, clarification. That read like resolution. I joined early. The screen showed placeholders. No faces. While waiting, my phone buzzed with a bank notification. Not a deposit. A pre-authorization reversal on my health premium. Coverage ended at midnight. The meeting started late. An HR rep spoke from a script. She said the reinstatement was procedural and did not change status. I asked about the contracts. She said legal would address downstream effects. As she spoke, the console kicked me out. Session expired. The timer resumed at 36 hours. The meeting ended on schedule. No questions allowed. My Access Badge app went dark again. A final email landed seconds later. Do not attempt further system entry. I sat with the laptop open, contracts printed on the table, and a countdown running again, thinner than before. The pause I thought I'd earned was gone. The first breach notice arrived before dinner. Not from the vendor, from a compliance aggregator that monitors the contracts. It named me as the responsible administrator and logged the lapse as unresolved. That shifted the pressure. This wasn't waiting anymore. This was record creation. I forwarded the notice to legal from my personal account. That broke the instruction, but the clock didn't care. The reply came back fast. One line. Please refrain from further contact. No denial. No correction. The escalation tightened. The vendor sent a second alert. Access failure confirmed. Penalty accrual scheduled to begin at midnight. Midnight was 6 hours away. I tried the vendor's emergency channel. The rep recognized my name and stopped typing. Then a new message appeared from a supervisor. They could not discuss accounts with former administrators. Former was already baked in. I checked my credit report out of instinct. A soft pull had been logged that afternoon. Employer initiated. That meant a packet had moved. Someone had decided this wasn't internal anymore. Another email landed. Certified. Legal letterhead. It stated that my actions during the temporary access window were under review for policy violation. It cited unauthorized data capture. The screenshots I took to protect myself were now framed as extraction. The model I'd been holding cracked there. I thought the risk was passive. Let the clock run, let them feel the penalties. Instead, the system had shifted the center of pressure onto me. The longer this ran, the more evidence accumulated against a person who no longer had standing. I called the vendor again. Different department. I didn't argue. I asked one question. Who pays if this goes unresolved? The answer was calm. The named admin first. Then the company. If the admin disputes, it freezes accounts and escalates to arbitration. Freeze meant all 3 contracts would lock. That would trigger damages far beyond my severance. Damages that could be pinned to negligence. At 9:47, the first contract flipped to penalty status. The number updated live. It wasn't catastrophic yet. It was precise. Designed to grow. My phone rang once. Blocked number. I answered. A voice said arbitration was likely and advised me to retain counsel. No affiliation stated. Then the line went dead. Midnight was 2 hours away. My email inbox filled with automated copies, each one another breadcrumb with my name on it. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was being documented. I closed the laptop and stared at the printed contracts. Every option left involved harm. Doing nothing was no longer neutral. Midnight stopped being an abstract marker. It became a moving wall. Each minute added a dollar amount and another system entry with my name attached. At 10:15, legal sent a calendar invite marked urgent. New title, Resolution Path. It started in 20 minutes. That wording landed hard. Path implied structure. Resolution implied end. I joined early again. This time there were faces. Legal. HR. Someone from Risk. The Risk lead spoke first. Calm. Measured. He said they were exploring a hold on enforcement while responsibility was reassigned. He said vendors were usually flexible when notified early. That sounded like oxygen. If enforcement paused, penalties would stop accruing. If responsibility moved, my exposure would cap. I asked for confirmation in writing. He said it would follow after internal sign-off. Sign-off was the hinge. They asked me to confirm one thing, that I had not retained copies of proprietary material. I answered narrowly. I said I had screenshots of my own access logs. Silence followed. The HR rep noted it and moved on. While they spoke, An email notification slid in from the vendor. Subject line neutral. Account status update. I didn't open it. I watched the risk lead talk about timing buffers and standard practice. He said midnight was aggressive but not final. The meeting ended with an action item. Wait. Do not contact vendors. Expect an update before midnight. That was the second pause. Stronger than the first. It felt official. At 11:43, the update arrived. Not from legal, from the vendor. All 3 contracts were now locked. Arbitration triggered automatically due to unresolved administrator dispute. Penalties escalated to the next tier. My name was listed as the contesting party by default because the company had not assumed responsibility in time. Seconds later, legal emailed. 1 paragraph. They regretted the timing. The hold had not cleared internal review. They advised me to cooperate with arbitration independently. That was the collapse. The promise of a pause had been procedural theater. The system had moved faster than consent. Another message followed. My bank this time. Credit line reduced due to pending legal exposure flagged by a monitoring service. Available balance shrank in real time. I looked back at the meeting notes. Wait had been the advice. Waiting had cost me the last remaining margin. The countdown hit 0 on the screen I'd left open. The numbers stopped changing. That minute had rolled into a different category. Not temporary. Not accruing. Active. I shut the laptop. I didn't need to see more. Whatever came next would not come from waiting. At 12:07, I sent one message. Not to legal. Not to HR. To the regulator named in the compliance footer of every contract. I attached the access logs, the timestamps, the notices ordering silence, and the vendor lock showing the company refusing assumption while penalties rolled. No commentary, just sequence. The response was automated and immediate. Case opened. Preservation order issued. By 12:20, the vendors received a directive to suspend enforcement and reassign administrators under supervision. By 12:31, the company accounts were frozen pending review. Not paused. Frozen. The risk lead called once. Missed. A second time. I declined. An hour later, a public filing went live. Material event. Internal controls failure. Counterparty exposure. Trading halted for the afternoon. The penalties stopped accruing under my name. They restarted under theirs with interest. The price landed just as fast. My phone filled with notices. Counsel required. Access to industry boards revoked during investigation. A letter arrived saying I was no longer eligible for rehire under any affiliate. My credit line dropped again. Cash only. Retainers first. By morning, my inbox was quiet. No instructions. No requests. Only a calendar block I didn't accept and a silence that felt permanent. I boxed the contracts and put them away. The countdown screens were gone. The numbers had moved somewhere I could not see. I sat at the table until the light changed and nothing else arrived.